Hey, it's Dave Isaacs with you, and today I want to talk to you about why you should be practicing scales. Now, I find that guitar students tend to fall into one of a couple of different categories. One are the students that don't necessarily want to or think they need to learn scales, and the other are the people that love to learn scales and practice them a lot, soak up lots of them, but don't necessarily know or have not yet learned how to use them. And so this lesson is addressed to both of you, and if you don't fall neatly into either one of those, it's addressed to you too. If you are primarily a strummer, let's say you're a songwriter, let's say you're a casual strummer or a singer learning to accompany yourself, and you're not really interested in lead guitar, you can still benefit a lot from practicing scales because by working the fingers individually, you develop your coordination and control, and that's going to help you with playing chords. It's going to help you a lot with playing bar chords. Remember that playing chords requires a level of finger independence, the ability to move one finger while the others don't, or to have one finger go in one direction and another go in another. This is really what makes bar chords so challenging. It's not just about the grip, it's that you have fingers that are rounded and fingers that are flat. You're asking your hand to go in two directions at once. So scales really help with your overall facility. They help you map out the neck and get out of the open position. As you learn your scales up the neck, it will help you learn chords, and learning the chords up the neck will help you with the scales. Everything goes hand in hand. And all of this has an ear training component in that if you practice scales properly, where you're really listening and thinking about what you're hearing, then you're learning about relationships between notes, both sonically, in terms of how they sound, and on the fingerboard in terms of where you find them. Let's take a look at a C major scale in the second position. Now, even if you've never played in position, you should be able to manage this. And if, say, for example, you avoid using your pinky or you don't like to use your pinky, this is definitely a good exercise for you. And all you need to do is do it slowly enough that you can stay in control of what you're doing. The idea is not to squeeze, the idea is not to grip, but just to get one note at a time cleanly. I'm starting with my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. Now I'm going to go up a whole step, 2 frets, to my little finger on the 5th fret of that same string. And now up another whole step, but across to the next string. Index finger, 2nd fret of the D string. Up a half step, middle finger, 3rd fret. Whole step, pinky, 5th fret. Whole step to a new string. Index, 2nd fret. Whole step, ring finger, 4th fret, and pinky, 5th fret, and that's a half step. C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's one octave. Now within that, you want to recognize some basic relationships. By the way, I should also mention that if you find the stretch, the reach, a challenge, say getting your pinky up to the 5th fret, then don't worry about stretching. You should be more concerned about hitting the target. So if you start with the middle finger here, and you need to pick up your hand to carry the pinky into place, that's really okay. If you're moving from the arm, what you're really doing is you're practicing a shift. It's a very small shift, but it's no different than the technique you would use to jump up here. So that's worth practicing as well. And besides, if you're trying to force the stretch early on, you're likely to just make your fingers compress, you're going to make yourself work harder, and you're going to do more harm than good. So it's really best, even if you already know your scales, to work slowly and deliberately and not worry about stretching until it comes naturally. I can't even tell you how often I have people come in for lessons that know their scales, but have been already practicing them too fast and have learned them with habits that we're going to need to break because they've learned to be sloppy by doing too much too soon, going too quickly, and not really absorbing things in a way that is going to be useful. So take your time. You don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but you do need to spend focused time. You want to make the most out of the time you do put in. Let's take a look at these relationships. Starting from C on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, using the middle finger, I'm going to go up to the 5th fret D. That's a whole step, the distance from the root, or the first note, the 1 of the scale, to the 2, the 2nd. recognizing the whole step distance on the neck. Now going first, second, and third notes, and recognizing the distance from the root, note 1, to note 3. That's a major third. Do, re, mi. You want to be aware of that relationship. You might also notice that this note is in the C chord. Then, note 4. From note 1 to note 4 is a perfect fourth. That's an important interval to know. Those are all perfect fourths. They have a distinctive sound. This is part of what we're going for here, is to begin to recognize what these intervals sound like. Here's a third. Here's a fourth. And then to note 5, here is the fifth. If you were playing the interval of a fifth, you probably, or would likely often use this fingering if you wanted to play it as a 2-note chord, an open fifth, sometimes called a power chord. Again, recognizing, not just doing this, but recognizing here's the second, here's the third. Seeing the relationship, hearing the relationship. Fourth, fifth. And this might seem obvious, but making the connection that fourth is just above the third. That fifth is above the fourth. So here's the first half. So play it up and down like that. Then skip notes and play from the root to the third to the fifth and back. This is a simple arpeggio, up and down the major chord. Now I'm going to play as far as note 6. That's a sixth, and it's worth making a mental note that 6 is 1 above 5. You can hear that. 5, 6, 5. Now up to the 7th. Making a mental note of the fingering, the relationship between those notes, and the tension, the dissonance that it creates, because this note wants to resolve to the octave, note 8. This shape is definitely one to remember because you want to be able to identify that C, that octave, because this is where we're going to start the next cycle of the scale, continuing on up to higher notes. So when we start from this bass note down here, the octave is over 2 frets and skipping a string. So here's a good sequence to practice. Play the whole scale. Up and down, making sure it's clean. The clarity of tone and accuracy is way more important than speed or stretch for right now, okay? You want to maintain a good hand position and get a good sound. Those are your goals. Then, note 1 to note 2, to note 3, to note 5, 1, 3, 5, to note 6, 1, 3, 5, 6, to 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, a major 7th arpeggio. Up to the octave. And major arpeggio ending at the octave. 1, 3, 5, 8. By the time you've done that, not only do you know that fingering cold, you know where those notes are, and you've begun to absorb the sound of where the different notes are, what the scale degrees sound like, how they relate to each other. Now we can continue on in C major. Finishing the second octave by shifting up to the fifth position. So, first octave ends here. Instead of using the pinky this time, I shifted the ring finger up because I need to be in third position to play 5th fret C, 3rd string, 3rd fret D on the 2nd string, 5th fret E, 6th fret F, now new string, index finger gets the G, 3rd fret, glide up to play A, ring finger B, and pinky C on the 8th fret. Notice this octave. And one more shape, because up here we can also play the scale from the C here at the 3rd string 5th fret, fret 5, fret 7, fret 5 on the B string, there's your 3rd. Fret 6 is your 4th. Fret 8 is your 5th. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, that's A on the 5th fret of the high E. That's B on the 7th fret of the high E. And there's your high C. So, 3rd, 5th, triad, 6th, major 6 arpeggio, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7th, major 7th arpeggio, 1, 3, 5, 7, octave, 1, 3, 5, octave. Now we have the long scale, starting from the low C, 2nd position, so I'm covering frets 2 through 5. Middle finger is on the C note, A string, 3rd fret. Slide up, slide up. And our alternate fingering shift up. This is actually more of a classical scale fingering. Now by the time you've done that, you've mapped out the C's on the neck. You've located your octaves, your thirds, your fifths, 6th, all the different intervals. That information is going to help you with chord construction too. And I think you can see how it gives a good workout for the fingers. As I said, the trick is to take your time, concentrate on clarity, concentrate on maintaining a relaxed hand position, get a clear tone, be able to get from note to note smoothly. When you shift, don't squeeze, but glide. Even when you're doing what we might call a free finger shift. For example, when I jumped from here to here, my index finger maintains contact with the string. You get a little string squeak, but the movement is coming from the arm. That's a free finger shift, or we use the glide shift where we simply slide. But glide is a better word than slide. It's not a smear. Use the arm to glide up. So I hope that you can see that there are multiple benefits to this. There are the technical benefits of working the fingers individually. There are the musical benefits of getting to know the relationships on the fingerboard and the sounds that they make. All that's really important. Now this is just one scale with a few different fingerings. There is a link to a tab in the description, so you have everything down below. Go ahead and check that out. I'm going to follow up with more of these. In fact, I think I'm going to work on a whole scales series. So stay tuned for that. Watch out for it. And I appreciate you watching. As always, if you don't subscribe, please do. I'm Dave Isaacs, and I'll see you next time.